What's up, everybody? I am Baron Baptiste. This is the show for disrupting the drift, disrupting the conspiracy for mediocrity. This is a place where we can tell the truth, and the truth can be told. Um, Please make sure to subscribe to the show, turn on your notifications so you get alerts when we drop a new episode. I wanted to announce this is the last episode for season one. We're going to take a short break of publishing podcasts, but we will resume over the summer, probably in the next month or two. But David and I and others, we're going to keep putting out and creating, even though we're not going to be posting and publishing. But keep your eyes open after this episode. Also, check out, if you want to leave questions, you can drop your questions at disrupting the drift at baronbaptiste.com, disrupting the drift at baronbaptiste.com. Also check out there's a free challenge I launched. And if you're interested, there's lots of great yoga practices and just some inspiration based on my book, 40 Days to Personal Revolution. If you go to personalrevolutionchallenge.com, personalrevolutionchallenge.com, and we're also posting these episodes on YouTube. So at Baron Baptiste at YouTube, check that out. I'm here with my good friend and co-host here, David Masters. David, how are you doing, my friend?
Rocking the free world, what's left of it.
Yeah. The world is troubled. The world is troubled.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I find our conversations here more relevant than ever, just to my own life. And I know that, the feedback we're getting from a lot of people. I want to thank everybody that's sending in your feedback. It's always in your encouragement and your appreciation for what we're doing here. It's really a commitment to bringing some kind of ease, some kind of lessening of suffering, and some kind of perspective in a troubled world. What do you say, David?
I've been trying to focus in on the programs that I'm working in on the hypnotic effect of everyday life on people, and that you and I have talked about a lot that you don't have problems, problems have you, and when you change the polarity of the way you look at what is going on in your life, and you de-identify with the things that you're struggling with, because see, the struggle is what embeds those things even deeper in you. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle in it, the deeper and the quicker you sink. So that's,
Mm-hmm.
the idea is that most people don't realize that they are struggling with something that they don't actually have to struggle with. And it's because of a false belief about it. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I'm getting it out there. I was on Ground Zero last night, 170 radio stations. Um, the host actually screamed out loud, "I've been saying this for years and everybody thought it was crazy." So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
interesting validation that I'm giving to people who actually see things for themselves. And to
Yeah.
me, that's very, and this show is
That's key,
really,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the show is very important. That when I go for a walk, I don't listen to anything but us. So
I like that.
I'm learning
I
from us all the
like
time.
that. No, it's like that, right? It's like it's so in the moment, present tense, and it's these kind of conversations are straight from the heart and alive. I like what you say about the struggle and taking a hard look at, well, what are you struggling with?
Mhm.
And often, I know in my own life, when I'm present I'm struggling with something or resisting something. Typically, I'm in my head about it,
Yeah.
and the moment that I drop down into my body, I get present, I fall awake, and get out of the thoughts, the liar in the head that is having me struggle or overthink or be, in the world of worry, which is made up of a world of thoughts. And get as I get present, I get access to a spiritual life and the spiritual connection. There's the saying in the Bible that a man and a woman that is born of God, they're not free from trouble, but trouble does not trouble them. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but it's something like that, being born of God and on a daily, sit, get still, get quiet, get connected to your source, your creator, you're a spiritual being. And then that gives a bigger perspective. You become about something bigger and greater than yourself. You see through a lens that's greater and bigger just than through the lens of your own identity, so to speak. But I like that last part of that. The man and woman that is born of God, they're not free from trouble, but trouble does not trouble them.
Yeah.
So, because when trouble troubles you, you're troubled. But when you become the master of trouble, then trouble will be there. You'll have troubles, but it won't trouble you. It won't eat away at you.
Yeah.
It won't, like squash you and squelch you. And there's a kind of freedom to be, to have troubles in life or problems, but you just see them as problems. They're just things that maybe you need to act on or do something about or not, but they don't own you. And then because when you master trouble, you also know you can end trouble, at least internally within yourself, your reaction to it, response to it. You can overcome trouble. The idea that you can overcome trouble, overcome or disappear struggle, to me is a very powerful insight, a very powerful place to stand. That, wow, I have the power to create negativity and troubles and dramas, and I also could use that power to actually overcome them, to disappear them within myself. So it's not stealing my peace of mind, not stealing my
You're not getting
wealth.
robbed. Yeah, not robbed of your well-being.
Oh, I love that. So yeah, wealth, to have wealth. And the word wealth, that is made up of two words. It's well-being and health. It equals wealth, the origin of it. And it's very interesting because well-being and health originally, in the old world represented wealth. If you had well-being, and I would say like spiritual well-being, mental, physical well-being and health equals wealth in oneself. And another aspect of that to me is, well, that's a point of view in life. Your outlook on life, your attitude plays into your sense of well-being. Yeah, how you see things, including troubles, how you relate to them, how you view them. Yeah.
So I think of myself as an instrument.
Yeah.
Okay. Like for example, I'm partial to playing the guitar. And so if everybody would step back for a minute and say, okay, what's your favorite instrument? Piano, guitar, whatever it may be, a harp. But what hand is playing the music through you?
Mm-hmm.
That's always the question, is like, if you could see yourself as the guitar, as the instrument, would you then be able to also say who you choose to provide the music to the instrument? Of ourselves, we really don't have that much capacity. We need something greater than ourselves, whatever it may be, to make use of us as instruments. I mean, I have a guitar that sits in the closet. I don't play it very often.
Yeah.
And when I do, and here's the other thing, the metaphor is, you put the guitar in the wrong hands, it sounds like crap. It's like with somebody that knows how to play the guitar, it's beautiful. But see, you are the instrument.
Yeah.
And so whether or not you are exuding beauty or exuding ugliness, for lack of a better word, you have decided without realizing, by default, a lot of people allow the wrong musician. They lend their life to the wrong musician. How's that?
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Well, it's like I'm hearing you speak of like something comes through us, energy. It's like where we're coming from for good, or if we're coming from good, if we're coming from evil. We're emanating out energy all of the time, and force, a spiritual force. We're spiritual beings, and your spiritual life is the backbone could say, in your mind and body are extremely valuable tools, or like you're referring to, instruments that you use every single day to help build the life you truly want or are destined to live, or they're tools or instruments for bad energy, for evil to come through you, where things are around you. You're a dragon, the energy of the dragon, you're a drag on life, on self, on others. You're a drag on, you drag things down energetically. Or you're naive, you have people around you, or you surround yourself with people that maybe on the surface look like they're your cheerleader and your friend, but actually they're not. Actually, they're an enemy to your potential or to your good-heartedness. They're enemies or stealers of your life force. You know what I mean by that?
I do. I was having a conversation with another guy that I do shows with, and he said something that was really profound. He said, well, thoughts have energy. And I said, well, here's the idea around that. Thought precedes action. So before there's any physical movement, see, unless you're on complete autopilot, there must be some thought form which contains energy. And see, if you look at all the physical world that we live in, it's constructed of little tiny invisible atoms. You know, the physics of what makes things what they are is very invisible. But when it comes into existence and it manifests in the form of physicality, there is something behind that. Now, whatever is behind all of the created things that we encounter in our lives, everything, there must be some kind of thought energy behind that. The same is true of us. We're no different. We're no different in any way, shape, or form and we are co-creating with the source of all the other creations. Now, but what we're doing is we are in this little world that we live in. And if we're not aware that we are allowing ourselves to be used to bring about things that we would otherwise not want to, then how do we change that polarity? Well, it's the thought energy. It's because, you know, my dad used to say, you're sinking in your thinking and you're drowning in your dreams.
Yeah.
But how can you sink in your think? How can you drown in a dream? Well, but it feels like it's real. So we are living in an interesting simulation, but in a sense, that simulation gives us the ability to manifest something real out of it, an idea.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, an idea right there, there's information. Idea is information.
Yep.
And it's like so information, I'm going by memory, but it means like the root meaning of the word information is to the formation of the mind. And you take information, knowledge, a kind of knowledge forms the mind. So if you're a part of groupthink, or you don't think for yourself, or you have people around you that are pulling you down and putting certain ideas or outlooks or points of views or resentment and malevolence, kind of that dark kind of thought and thinking world that brings you, well, it's wrong knowledge, you could say. It's dark knowledge or evil knowledge, which is then a deformation of the mind. So what kind of information are you letting in? And if you look on the internet, social media, there's the dark web right on Instagram or right on, you don't have to look too far to actually, if you're taking the wrong information in, knowledge is power. There's that saying, knowledge is power. Well, okay, wrong knowledge is a deformation of the mind. Like, hello.
Yeah. And if you look at it, deconstruct it a little bit more deeply, if knowledge is truly power, what is it that's contained within knowledge that gives power? There's something in knowledge, see, that we usually don't consider very deeply. But when you see it, the scripture says, if you know the truth, it shall make you free. Well, there's power in the knowledge of truth, but there's an additional other component of that, which is the dark side of that, is that there is power in the knowledge of the dark things.
A
But
false
see,
power,
well,
like a
but
prideful power.
yes,
Is
but
that what you're pointing to? Or yeah.
what we're doing by allowing the false energy of the
Mm-hmm.
false things without realizing it is we're allowing it to actually cannibalize us.
Mm-hmm.
Dark things cannibalize our potential.
Yeah.
So we just become a food source for dark things.
Oh
And
yeah.
see,
Very good.
if
Yeah.
you feel anxiety, if you feel a struggle within yourself, it's because you're not being yourself. And because the
Yeah.
self that you are meant to be is a receiver of the knowledge of truth that
Right.
actuates you into becoming a light in the world.
That
Put it
makes
that
you
way.
free
Yeah.
and free to be
Yeah.
who you're essentially born to be,
Yes.
like a child of God. Whatever your like natural flow is of yourself,
Yeah.
your essential self. But then that world, well, and you said like the dark things that can take you down or pull you down. And well, I'll say it's people, the dark people, places or things that can take you down. So like open your eyes and wake up. Well, who's, you know, who lifts you up in your life and who's messing you up?
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's messing you up around certain people, if you feel like you're all thumbs or you just somewhere your confidence goes out the window or you're doubting yourself or you're feeling confused, they confuse you the way they interact. You're like, wait, that goes against the grain of what I know, that deeper knowing, the call my conscience. If someone's, when I say messing you up, you got to like really look, like pay attention. And you may be that person doing that to others, which inherently you do to yourself internally. But who's lifting you up, including yourself? And at the end of the day, it's like self first. And who's messing you up? But I think to pay attention both internally and externally, are you lifting you up? Are you living in ways, aiming true and living true in such a way that lifts you up, that elevates you in the face of, difficulty, trouble internally? And where are you messing you up and where messing yourself up and where can you clean it up? Like be real about where you're, undermining and sabotaging, or not to go down that way and that certain path, or don't do that thing. And then you're like, well, other people are doing it. Well, and they don't look like they're getting in any trouble or messing. It's not messing them. It looks like, but you start rationalizing in your brain. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it's like right
Confirmation
there,
bias. Yeah.
stop. Yeah,
Yeah.
right there, stop, turn back real quick, because right there, you're messing yourself up. And maybe because you're hanging out with people who are messing up, and they're going to mess you up if you allow that deformation information into your own mind.
Yeah.
And you become malformed rather than informed, formed from within yourself.
The one of the best examples of what we're talking about in my life was to be found in the movie Pinocchio. But because Pinocchio was a little wooden head and he didn't really know much about the world, and then he encounters the fox.
Mm.
And the fox is all about, you would say the fox was a soulless capitalist who cared only about one thing: finding people that were vulnerable and then selling them off to Pleasure Island so that he could get paid for them. And but you see, the minute that you fall into a relationship with a fox, in this sense, is the minute you begin to lose your autonomy and your individuality. Because when you then find yourself in that Pleasure Island environment and you start, playing pool and breaking glasses and smoking whatever, and then you become enslaved to that which introduced you to that environment, to that world. And you see, the unfortunate reality is that that changes you. And now you are no longer a free agent, but you are in a state of servitude, because the minute you break and you abandon yourself, whether you realize it or not, you're entering into a relationship with a slave master. And I tell you, a lot of people who have the feelings that we're discussing right now, these anxieties, these conflicts inside, they're involved with somebody who does not want them to change.
Mm-hmm.
That person will try to keep you in that place because they like it there. And so it does take courage. It takes a courage of commitment to say, this is not for me. This is not where I belong. When I was 23, 24 years old, I talked about this a little bit last time, that there was an environment that people looked to me like the party master. They wouldn't even have a party if I wouldn't show up. I had to spin the records. I had to kind of be the ringmaster. So one day I'm at a party and I just feel like this wasn't the world that I was meant to continue on in. So I walked out in the back of the house, sat out in the backyard, and I was looking from the outside in to see all the people in the house that were doing whatever they were doing. Two of my friends came out and said, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "There's nothing wrong with me." But you see, they wanted to pull me back into the party. They liked me to be a part of it. They liked me to be the leader of it. And you know, there's people that are like that in this situation, that it really takes something of the other world, this other world that you want to be in, to allow that little piece of that other world to start to influence you back over into the world that you were meant to be, by moving you out of the world you're not meant to be in, and breaking those slavish relationships with those people who don't want you to leave.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Okay, well, let's wrap up here with the question that we were intending to begin with.
Okay.
I'll pull forth this question someone sent in, and I think it's a very good question, and maybe we could wrap up on this question, just give our kind of take on it. But so here's the question. I struggle with taking care of everyone else, and I leave myself behind. And I experience being angry and drained and troubled. Do you have any guidance on how to best begin to shift so that I'm taking care of my own physical and mental health? So I'll say this. What comes to mind here is we all have an unrealized potential. And the only place to find it is in the present moment. So get present. So you'll never reach your true potential in life if you don't prioritize self, the nurturing of self and leading self, and prioritize your spiritual life. Truth first, God first, self first, and your physical and mental health go right in line with that. So spiritual to physical and mental well-being and health. But you're a spiritual being, and your spiritual life is the backbone of your mental and physical health and well-being, could say. And your mind and body are extremely valuable tools that we use every single day in life to help build the life we really want. They're the vehicles, the body, the mind, but you want to inform the body and mind with truth, spiritual life, your spiritual life. That's what I say. But you have to keep these tools sharp. The body, like physical health, takes something. You have to keep sharpening. If the body's a tool, you have to keep sharpening that tool. The mind, it's a tool. You have to keep sharpening that tool. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. And the longer you keep telling yourself stories about how you're too busy, or you need to make sacrifices somewhere to other things or others to accomplish whatever, your ambition or your goals. But if you step over your own spiritual, physical, and mental life, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And so I want to hear what you have to say, David, but I know that I know what it's like to put my health on the back burner. I know what it's like to be overweight. I know what it's like to have, mentally to have self-doubt and anxiety and lack of confidence and fear and living from all that. And I know what that's like, but I can promise you this: neglecting your physical and mental health is a very crappy strategy for accomplishing anything great in life. And then there's a way to put others first, but really they have to come second. So maybe others in your life that are important to you are your first commitment, but you have to have self first, in a sense. Does that make sense to you, David?
Yes. And along those lines, the way I see it for myself is, so I need a certain amount of money in order to pay my bills and to maintain my life.
Mm.
And so one day I look in my bank account and there's no money. There's just not enough for anything. So let's just change it now from money to truth. Because you either have an abundance of truth in your life or you have a truth deficit. And the reason why you're angry is because there may be truth available to you that you're not receiving. And the further you go down the road, because see, there's no point in anxiety if it isn't trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you that there's something different for you. There's another life waiting for you. There's things that you know that you shouldn't be doing that you're still continuing to do for whatever reason. And so I say that you either have a healthy relationship with truth or you have an unhealthy relationship with truth. And to the extent you have a healthy relationship with truth, it extends to every component of your being, every cell of your being.
Yeah.
And so, just take a look at your bank account. And then the question is, why isn't my relationship with truth really healthy? That's the question.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I think that's a powerful place to wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you. Stay safe, stay blessed, and stay in the practices. Again, you could check out the personalrevolutionchallenge.com. And this is a completion of season 1. We will be back in a few weeks or sometime during the summer of 2023 with season 2. So be well. Thank you, David. As always, my friend.
Thank you.
Stay blessed.